Going from A to B in style. Driving a souped-up convertible may look good, but when it comes to insuring your motor, it could make you think twice. And if you end up parking your car on the side of a road instead of in a garage, your premiums could hit £1,500 a year. But whether you're driving that car or this car, it looks like your insurance premium is going to rise this year. During 2014, insurance premiums were on a downward trend. But according to new research by the AA, by the end of this year, your insurance could cost you 10% more.
Insurance companies will be offering very competitive deals, there's no doubt about that. What really depends and what matters in the coming year is what happens with claims. If we see an increase in claims, for example, that will of course have an impact on the cost of insurance. We are actually already seeing an increase in low value insurance claims, which I think is a direct consequence of the confidence returning to the economy.
Despite efforts by the Ministry of Justice, whiplash claims continue to rise. They are now at 71,000 a month on average. So with prices on the rise, the key advice for reining in costs is to shop around. Price comparison sites are one good place to look. Direct deals, such as those on offer through the post office for over 50-year-olds, are also very attractive. In fact, up to 51% of consumers could save more than £200 if they switched insurers. But despite these figures, research shows more than a third of drivers have not switched their insurance for more than 3 years. 17% of drivers have never switched.
Yes, I phoned up and said I'd been quoted better elsewhere, but I stayed with my existing insurer because you're always worried that you're not covered for everything if you change insurers.
He finds the best deal, and then he tries to get our current insurer to match the best deal he can find.
I've been with the same company for about 3 years, and I didn't have much time to actually look around for a quote, so I just reinsured it with them again, unfortunately.
So if you aren't that keen on moving insurer, Ian Crowder from the AA has some tips for you.
Modern cars are brimming with technology, even fairly low-cost cars, and that includes things like autonomous emergency braking, which can help to reduce the premiums quite significantly. You're asked a lot of questions when you apply for your insurance. Profession is one of them. But there are things that you can do there. For example, if you're a drama teacher, if you just simply put teacher, that could save you a few pounds on your policy.
What other actions can young drivers take then?
Well, young drivers could put a named driver on their policy, particularly, for example, if they put their mum.
And proving you're a good driver is another way to cut your insurance premiums. It's possible to install a little black box that monitors your driving and therefore could save you hundreds of pounds. But only if you rate your driving skills. Chloe Hayward, BBC News.
Tea time for Benson the cat. Chris adopted Benson when his parents moved into a care home. Now, 4 years later, Chris has spent nearly £250,000 on care for his parents. Over the years, his parents were assessed to see if they were eligible for the NHS continuing healthcare funding.
And this is the first care home Mum and Dad were at.
But just a few months before his father passed away, he was still not eligible for funding support.
It's obviously not going to pay out to everybody involved because the government couldn't afford to do that. But I think there are cases where people are at an extreme level of ill health and they need to be funded. My late father was blind, he was totally immobilised, he was double incontinent, he had a rare form of dementia, and still, even when he had a continuing care assessment near the end before he passed, he was only borderline, he didn't qualify.
Chris's family is one of several hundred trying to retrospectively claim back money from the NHS. His mother's care costs continue to mount while she suffers the later stages of Alzheimer's.
Currently, Chris's mother lives at this care home here in Kent, and it costs him between £500 and £700 a week for her to stay here. In fact, in the UK, on average, care homes cost £37,500 a year. So with such massive bills looming, should the NHS be doing more to help people during their hour of need?
I think the NHS are to blame for not highlighting the problem in the first place when somebody's about to go into care. Everybody who is discharged from hospital into a long-term care setting should be assessed for this funding, and often people are just told, oh, your relative won't be eligible for this.
Currently, 59,000 people are receiving this funding from the NHS. But there are estimates that up to 150,000 could be eligible. With many people not even aware that this funding pot exists, and others told not to apply if they have property or savings, the advice from age-related charities is to ask and persevere.
Often when you go through the eligibility process or an appeals process, they'll be asking for evidence as to what the level of need is, how intense is it, how will it change, how uneven is it, are people likely to deteriorate one day and be fine the next. Keep a record of those kinds of accounts so that you can give that to the team that's making that assessment.
Another complaint is that the review process takes too long. Some patients are waiting for up to 12 months for a decision.
The NHS says it's working closely with local commissioners on the eligibility process. They also say that new steps are being taken to better inform patients before they leave hospital. The hope is that more clarity will save some people crippling care bills in the future. Chloe Hayward, BBC News.
Devastation across the country. These images are the enduring memories of last winter. But despite the ever-increasing risk of floods in the UK, people living near rivers are still not properly prepared. Up to 5.2 million homes are at risk, but only 1.7 million have taken preventative measures. If you live in a flood risk area, taking action now could save you thousands in the future.
Nearly a year ago, this street in Sudbury-on-Thames had up to 3 foot of floodwater. And now today, the waters may have receded, but the memories are still all too raw.
So this is one of the rooms you're in the process of trying to do up at the moment, yeah?
Yes, it is.
This house was flooded last February. It took nearly 5 months for Jacqueline's bungalow to be certified as dry enough before the repair work could even begin. So far, 4 of the 11 rooms in her property have been renovated with new anti-flood measures.
If you look, the lower floor level, the first brick was where our floors were originally, but because we had room height, we've actually raised our floor levels. We've put in aqua panel, we've got waterproof plasterboard, we've got moisture resistant doors and moisture resistant skirtings and everything else. So hopefully we'll have peace of mind, and if the waters come up as they did in January, we'll only have a clear up job to do rather than an evacuation and rebuilding.
The National Flood Forum helped Jacqueline navigate through the clean-up operation. They say being organised can save homeowners a lot of heartache.
The first thing they need to do is go and find an independent surveyor to do a survey of possible water ingress into their properties. And from that, the independent surveyor will be able to give like a shopping list of sorts of products that they might need to protect their property. And they come in as things like this flood board, these sorts of air brick covers, and there's generally other things on the market like alternative sandbags and one-way valves.
And it's worth the effort. Insurance companies do take into account any flood prevention measures when calculating new premiums.
If you do face a high premium and a high excess, talk to your insurer about any steps that you can take to reduce it, such as instituting flood resilience or resistance measures, and also use an insurance broker to see if there are other companies who may be able to offer you more favourable terms.
For several of those living on the banks of the Thames, they are still a long way off getting their lives back to normal. But lessons have been learnt. Chloe Hayward, BBC News, Sunbury-on-Thames.